It's Pride Month here in the USA, so today on World Edition we're going to be taking a look at the history of Pride and the modern status of Pride and the LGBT movement. Welcome to World Edition. It's June 11th, 2021. I'm Brandon, your host, subbing in for Steve. As you may have noticed, with the plethora of rainbows and glitter everywhere, it's currently Pride Month here in the United States. Pride Month is celebrated the whole month of June, with parades, festivals, and events held across different cities around the country, making for some great TikTok clips and YouTube videos of dance-offs, funny drag queen comments, and of course some fabulous local news stories.
Last night we showed you this Atlanta police officer dancing to Cardi B at Pride.
Well, now another moment at Atlanta Pride is racking up views on social media. David Cohen wowed the crowd with his American Sign Language translation of Beyonce's Get Me Body.
Okay.
He was killing it, throwing some extra little moves there, little smack. He is making everyone smile out there.
You go, David! It's all the best things about Pride. Beyonce music, accessibility, Beyonce music, shaking your hips, Beyonce music, dancing. Did I mention Beyonce music? But there is more to Pride than cops dancing with bystanders and ASL interpreters shaking their hips. Pride parades started as a political riot, which you may not know if your knowledge of Pride is limited to corporate pandering. Marketers have capitalized on the month. In fact, Marks and Spencer, the British grocery chain, chose to celebrate in 2019 by launching their own LGBT sandwich. That's right. This is totally real. This sandwich, of course, uses all the best elements of the LGBT community. Let's not forget the L stands for lettuce, the B for bacon, the G for guacamole, and the T for tomato, obviously. This sandwich caused a bit of a stir on Twitter. And while the company did donate £20,000 to AKT, a British LGBT youth homelessness charity, the internet did what it does best: memeified everything. As this Twitter user noted, "Mom, Dad, I have something to tell you. I'm guacamole." And of course, we all remember that M&S threw the first artisanal sandwich at Stonewall. Not all of this pandering is fun and games, though. Some of it is downright bizarre. Between banning trans people from the military, appointing scores of federal judges who were opposed to LGBT rights, attempting to eliminate protections for transgender people in homeless shelters, the Trump campaign released this monstrosity: a rainbow version of the Make America Great Again hat. I guess the rainbow hoods didn't go over as well at the Klan rallies. This brings us to our main topic today: pinkwashing. Pinkwashing commonly refers to the appropriation of the LGBTQIA movement by companies and politicians in order to promote their agenda. Namely the theory of, well, if you slap a rainbow logo on it, you can do terrible, horrible things the rest of the year. To understand the challenges of pinkwashing, let's first start with a crash course history in Pride. Now, there are lots of versions of this origin story. because at the time, gay bars and other meeting places had to operate in secret, so there's not a lot of great documentation. But the common theme starts with a police raid in Greenwich Village at a bar called the Stonewall Inn. Police officers burst in, arresting people, forcing them into waiting police vehicles, but the crowd decided to push back. They pelted the police force with stones, bricks, bottles, clearly an M&S LGBT sandwich as well, leading to some aggressive confrontations over the next few nights. Now, this wasn't an isolated incident. It had happened before at Compton's Cafeteria in San Francisco and at Cooper's Donuts at LA. But arguably, it's the most famous one that we all talk about today. The following year, in an attempt to build a spirit of resistance, there was an organized march to Central Park, and the theme of gay pride was born as a way to overstep the shame that society had typically pushed on people in this community. One of the most pointed to examples of pinkwashing started in the early 2000s. In 2005, the Israeli government began a marketing campaign, Brand Israel, as reported by the Jewish Daily News to showcase Israel as relevant and modern. They used the LGBT community to try to reposition its image on the international stage, spending around $90 million to try and brand Tel Aviv as an international gay vacation destination. And this wasn't just some low-level marketing ploy. Prime Minister Netanyahu told Congress that the Middle East was a region where, quote, women are stoned, gays are hanged, and Christians are persecuted. Many in the LGBT movement and allies pointed out that this campaign seemed like a strategy to cover for the continuing violations of Palestinians' human rights, pinkwashing the hard-won gains of Israel's gay community, and ignoring the existence of Palestinian gay rights groups, waving a flashy PR flag, and conservative and religious politicians could continue to be fiercely homophobic. Fun fact, the British colonial influence in the West Bank included anti-sodomy laws until as late as the 1950s, when it was decriminalized. The LGBT movement has grown a lot since the 1950s, with progress being made around the world, from the American Psychiatric Association removing homosexuality from its list of mental illness in 1973, to the Bostock ruling that stopped hospitals from turning away trans patients, to the repealing of Don't Ask, Don't Tell in 2010. As the gay rights movement grew, its commercial and corporate influence has grown too. And it's important to remember that Pride started as a political event, a counterculture movement to protest unfair systems and policies. Now, the public support for Pride isn't always a bad thing. The visibility of the LGBT community is no doubt a wonderful thing. I can't imagine the difference it makes walking through a mall decorated with rainbows and signs of support and acceptance today as a young person compared to the shameful hiding the community was forced into not all that long ago. But the strange sidestep here is that corporations like AT&T, Home Depot, and Pfizer, who Popular Information reported having donated more than $1 million to anti-LGBT politicians while publicly showing support and marketing and pandering during the Pride movement. Even entertainment giant Disney hopped on board this year with an ad just to show how much they too love the gays. It's Pride Month, y'all! Buy more things! Disney's public facade of helping promote the LGBT movement is slightly undercut, though, with cartoonist and creator of the Disney Channel series Gravity Falls taking to Disney to task, tweeting, "Disney privately, cut the gay scene. We might lose precious pennies from Russia and China." Disney publicly, "Honk honk, we put a rainbow bumper sticker on Lightning McQueen. Come consume our products, teens." And it's not the first time that this creator has spoken out. He's gone on record saying that Disney explicitly forbid him to include a gay romance in the show. And Disney is a mega entertainment conglomeration. They could single-handedly do a lot for gay representation. But instead, they opted to censor an episode of Gravity Falls that showed an elderly woman falling in love in the background. And it doesn't have to be hard. Even TV shows like Blue's Clues have figured out how to do this with their catchy song, and I'm so sorry that this will be stuck in your head all week long. My apologies in advance.
Families marching one by one, hurrah, hurrah. This family has two mommies, they love each other so proudly, and they all go marching in the big parade. Families marching two by two, hurrah, hurrah.
Hurrah! Hurrah! I'm sorry in advance if that gets stuck in your head. Now let's set aside the fact that it is harder for LGBT families to start a family, as demonstrated by the fact that Tennessee Governor Bill Lee, a striped tie and shoulder pad enthusiast, signed a bill in January guaranteeing funding to foster care and adoption agencies who refuse LGBT couples looking to adopt. Now that's a catchy tune. We all go marching down the street, hurrah, hurrah. We have no families because of Bill Lee, hurrah, hurrah. I'm not funny. Now, Disney, of course, has a much wider appeal and a bigger fan base than Blue's Clues, so the simple inclusion and representation of an LGBT character could do a lot for representation. This is pinkwashing. Instead of making meaningful moves to support the LGBT community, we slap rainbows on things and value the gay community based upon their ability to consume. And I, for one, think we can do better. The danger here isn't the backpacks and glittery products, it's overwriting history to say 50 years of pride. We've done it, the battle is over. And it's not. There are still real problems here that need our help. It's estimated that about 7% of youth are LGBT, but 40% of youth experiencing homelessness are LGBT. Around 1 in 4 kids are kicked out after coming out as LGBT, and the reason we don't do much about it is summed up well by Sassafras Lowry, the editor of Kicked Out Anthology, in this ILT Media interview.
The LGBT community has historically and continually systematically ignored queer youth homelessness. You know, it's not as sexy as marriage equality. It doesn't have good sound bites like Don't Ask, Don't Tell. It's not been an issue that has risen to the level of other things that we see as important.
And that's true. It's not a catchy, sexy issue, but it is a real problem. American Progress reported that LGBT youth are significantly more likely to be sexually assaulted than their straight counterparts. And there's not a lot of great avenues for this population to turn to, with social services and homeless shelters often rejecting transgender youth or housing them in a gendered space they do not identify with, opening them up to more harassment and more risk of sexual abuse. While organizations like My Friend's Place have made strides in supporting the homeless LGBT youth, they need more funding, staffing, visibility, and resources to begin to really tackle this problem. This is where these pink-washed pride consumerism binges could do some real good. I don't have a problem with merchandising Pride Month, but this consumerism, these proceeds, these profits could do some real good for organizations like My Friend's Place or the Trevor Project, an LGBT crisis services provider. Political agendas and companies that fund and participate in political agendas that are anti-LGBT or organizations that are actively anti-LGBT shouldn't be slapping their rainbows on their logo to sell more stuff. Ultimately, queer liberation can't be achieved without racial, economic, and other forms of justice, but we can take real, concrete steps to return Pride a little bit closer to what it started as. Yes, let's celebrate in the streets and enjoy the progress the gay community has made, but let's remember that it is not over, and we need to keep working to push companies, politicians, and communities to not just tolerate and accept the LGBT community, but to take sincere steps to promote equality. Thanks for watching this special episode of World Edition. Thanks to the IBMTV for letting me be a producer here over the last year. It's been a lot of fun. We've made a lot of great content together. Don't forget to subscribe to the P.O.D TV News, Law, and Policy channel, and check out the IBMTV main channel for more great shows and content from education to chess. A lot of smart people on a lot of smart topics, hosting a lot of great shows. Steve will be back on Monday with a normal episode of World Edition. My name's Brandon. Thanks for letting me be your host, and I will see you all very soon. Happy Pride, everyone!